Welcome to episode number 329 of the Marine Layer podcast. Should the Mariners consider trading with the Boston Red Sox, more specifically, Jarren Duran or Wilyer Abreu, to address the Mariners' corner outfield situation? Lana dive in to discuss how that would make sense and whether or not the Mariners should do it.
Your guys' reminder, just make sure you're staying on top of all of our stuff. If you want to do that, there's a couple ways. You can go right over to our website, that's marinelayerpod.com, and if you do that, you can find all of our episodes there, audio and video. If you're listening, just make sure to download and rate and review 5 stars. If you're watching on YouTube, go like, comment, and please go hit subscribe. That is the best way to support the channel, is if you just hit subscribe on YouTube. Everything else is on our website too, between our merch, our Patreon. We love seeing people wear all the merch. That's over at marinelayerpod.com. And then you can check us out all across social media at marinelayerpod.
Let's get it rolling.
The pitch from Acevedo. A drive deep to right field. Down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1. The dream lives. They're going to the playoffs. 1-1 from Jansen. There you go. Left field. We got a tie ball game. Julio. Oh, baby, what a moment. Tie ball game at 7-7.
And we welcome you to this episode of the Marine Layer podcast, part of the Just Baseball Podcast Network. Recording here on Sunday evening, November 23rd, the first ever podcast from the state of Hawaii as I sit in Kauai right now. Wow. History. We have made history. The offseason is so slow, we're making up new milestones. So congratulations, Lyle.
Well, it's not slow anymore.
Well, it's slow for the Mariners.
Oh,
right
it's
now.
It's slow for the Mariners. That's fair.
We did have quite a long discourse on what to talk about today, given it's like, is there anything recent to talk about?
There has been almost nothing. And to their credit, they got a lot of it done early with signing Josh Naylor. But after that, it's been nothing. It's been a couple of Polanco tidbits here and there, but that's about it.
So let's talk about then the current news of the day. We do have the mock trades or the ideas of trading with the Boston Red Sox coming up a little bit later in the episode. But there is a trade that happened today that will affect the Mariners because it happened within the American League West in a very rare a big league player for big league player 1-for-1 trade happened today here on Sunday. The Mets traded Brandon Nimmo to the Texas Rangers for Marcus Semien. There's a lot of layers to this trade right now. It's the Texas Rangers saying we need to shed salary, though still adding a ton of salary, over $100 million from Brandon Nimmo, and then the Mets clearing up long-term salary so they could potentially sign someone long-term while acquiring Marcus Semien at age 35. You and I were sitting here talking about this trade when it happened. It's like, what?
Quick side note. I would love to ask him this one day. How many people in the world of baseball have Jeff Passan's notifications on? Because I think it's a lot. And I ask this because all I had to do when that trade went down, because you and I and plenty of other people both have his notifications on, especially in the offseason, as we immediately see the trade that just goes down, all I had to text you was, what the fuck is that? ... No context. Didn't have to send a tweet involving the trade or the trade. Nothing. I just had to send you the text knowing that I had the notifications on, knowing that you had the notifications on, and then the discourse just starts back and forth.
What's funny is actually I didn't see the notification because you know this. I haven't had my phone for a whole week. It just broke. It's broken. It's sitting on my bedroom bedside table at home, dead. That will get replaced when I get back from Hawaii. But I legitimately haven't had a phone for a week, Lyle, so notifications do not exist for me. I did see it on Twitter. I was on Twitter when I saw it before I actually opened your text message. But overall, the sentiment of this, yes. And Jeff makes it so easy because every big move that ever happens with Jeff Passan gets all caps breaking.
Yeah.
And not every newsbreaker does that. Most of the ESPN ones do. The ESPN ones have a pretty concise format for news breaking that is tailored for notifications.
Jeff knows how to get people, I will say, because he knows how many people have his notifications on, and he knows that when he tweets those, 8 letters, people are glued to their phone.
Spin Zone, the Jeff Passan notification for Josh Naylor broke my phone.
I mean, that is when your phone broke.
It literally died at that moment. there's a non-zero chance that's what caused everything to snap. But anyways, this trade does affect the Mariners a little bit.
Yeah, it does. Just because this is in division, it's not going to be the reason end all be all the Mariners have a good or bad season. It's just a player they're going to see or not see in their division a little more often. Instead of seeing Marcus Semien, a second baseman who they signed for a lot of money, helped the Rangers win a World Series, has had some MVP level seasons in his career. Now is in his mid-30s, going to Queens, and instead the Mariners are going to see a lot more of a good bat to ball, great plate approach, good defending, left-handed hitting outfielder in Brandon Nimmo.
I don't think this makes the Rangers better, though, which is a positive for the Mariners. It is harder to find good second base production than it is to find good outfield production. And the Rangers don't achieve their ultimate goal, which I thought it was by trading Marcus Semien. Their goal with trading Semien, in my opinion, was going to save $26 million in 2025 or 26, not save $5 million, because that's how it nets out. Brandon Nimmo's owed $20 million each of the next 5 seasons. Marcus Semien is owed $26 million. This season, he's owed $26 million. Next season, and then the final season of his contract, he's owed $20 million. The Rangers don't really save that much and have now weakened their infield, essentially. Now, Nimmo does plug a hole in the outfield because the Rangers have Evan Carter, who was solid last year in a little bit less than half a season. Langford is a stud, and he's just going to continue to get better. But after that, I mean, they're running out Josh Smith. They were running out Marine Layer podcast ranting legend Michael Hellman. You remember September and late August, Lyle and I had quite a few words to say about the ragtag group of Texas Rangers getting them to within half a game of the Mariners. They had Sam Haggerty, but now they have a real outfielder in Brandon Nimmo, which is good for them. But it doesn't provide them with that flexibility to make themselves that much better and bring themselves closer to the Mariners, which is a good thing, and will help out the Mariners as they try and win their second straight division crown next year. I will officially state this right now. This trade is not causing me to be concerned about the Texas Rangers affecting the Mariners' playoff chances in 2026.
No, I'm in the same boat. I don't really think the Rangers got better with this deal. Now, Marcus Semien in the last 2 years has not been great offensively. I don't think he's cooked either. I still will believe in Marcus Semien. I still absolutely think he is a type of player who will turn this thing around. I don't think he's just cooked by his mid-30s. But clearly the Rangers wanted to shake some things up, and they clearly didn't want to keep paying everybody that they had on their payroll, so they switched some things up and sent him out to Queens. They sent him to the Mets. You don't see this that often anymore, big league player for big league player trades. It's rare.
It's an NBA trade.
For sure.
Minus the first-round picks. Would the Rangers trade Corey Seager? There was that smoke this week. Would they actually do that?
I mean, if they do, they're really signaling our run is over and we're resetting.
And they're not getting anything real back for Corey, are they? Corey's still been really good, but he is owed so much money. He's so much money. He's not getting younger. We were talking pre-recording about how much you could get back for Fernando Tatis Jr. if you're the Padres, and I promise, Lyle and I are going to talk about the idea of trading for Fernando Tatis Jr. on this podcast, and the Mariners should do it, and what that would look like. The Padres could actually get stuff back for Fernando Tatis because he's so young. Corey Seager is over the age of 30. He doesn't have a sterling health record, and he makes $32.5 million a season. It's really hard to get anything back for him if you trade him.
Yeah, although you're looking at a guy that the last 3 seasons and his OPS plus goes from 174 to 149 to 151. I would think you could get something significant back for Seager.
Not if someone's eating all that money. Not really.
The Rangers might have to eat 2/3 of it, but if they want to get something back,
sure,
they could eat 2/3.
In which case they will. You're right. In which case they will get something back. But if they're truly trying to dump money, then you're not dumping as much as you really want to actually give yourselves the upgrades this season, because you're not going to be able to if the Rangers eat 2/3 of that money, which is only about, let's do math, about $11 million of that. For $11 million, you're not making up Corey Seager's production. And the same goes if they try and dump Jacob deGrom's contract, who, by the way, is going to be making nearly $40 million for the next 3 years, per year, by the way, and he's not getting any younger. It's the same idea. If you eat 2/3 of Jacob deGrom's money to move off of him, you're not replacing Jacob deGrom's production for $13 million. That's not happening. So the Rangers are in a tough spot, but they won their World Series, something the Mariners have not done. So like they took a calculated risk spending all this money, and while they're not set up great for the future right now, they have their ultimate goal.
Yeah, they won. Why does it feel like if they're going to dump all these contracts that DeGrom's just going to go back to the Mets and Corey Seager's going to go back to the Dodgers?
But that's not the Mariners' problem.
No, it's not at all. I'm just saying those are two teams that would absolutely take on money.
It'd make for good storylines.
Yeah.
And the fit is really, really good. Not even just eating money. Dodgers don't have a shortstop, technically. You can say Mookie's their shortstop, but if they want the max value for him, he should be playing outfield, not right field, not Teoscar Hernandez. Teoscar Hernandez cannot play right field. And then the Mets don't have any starting pitchers.
Right.
Doesn't matter how old DeGrom is. And they can afford it.
Yeah. So that's that trade. It certainly was not one we were expecting here on this Sunday afternoon, but we got it. You don't see big league player trades that often anymore. But, yeah, I think this is, I don't want to say a wash, but I just don't see the Rangers significantly upgrading from this.
That's one big league for big league trade. Shall we suggest 2 potential big leaguer for big leaguer trades? How about?
Yeah, I think that's what we've got dialed up on this episode, so let's dive into it.
How about a potential Mariners major league starter to the Red Sox for either Jarren Duran or Wilyer Abreu?
Oh, so we're just jumping right into the idea of a starter. I thought maybe we were going to...
We can get to that point, but I thought that was a good transition. Because that, just to lay it out flat before this, you're thinking, you're talking yourself into potentially doing either of these 2 ideas. Let's lay out the price right at the start, and then we'll make the case whether or not you should pay that price as we go. The price for Jarren Duran or Wilyer Abreu will be a Mariners starting pitcher. That is in the big leagues. And it'll be one of your 4 homegrown guys.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt. And really, it's probably more like 2 or 3. Because they're not going to trade Brian Wu.
No.
And they're not going to trade Wu.
Let's talk about the cases for trading each of the 3 at the, once we actually get to the meat of yes or no of this. Let's go player by player here. And let's start off with Jarren Duran. I also want to thank the mailbag question that spurned this conversation from Friday's episode for us to talk a little bit more about it today. It's an interesting discussion. There's a lot of cases for, and there's a lot of cases against for this as well. So let's start off with Jarren Duran. Jarren Duran, of these 2 players, the more complete offensive profile. He's got more tools. He's had better overall seasons. And he would make the Mariners better if you acquired him, because he does a lot of things well. He's as close to a 5-tool player without actually being a 5-tool player as you can get. Is that fair? In 2024, he had a 5-tool caliber season, but he's not Mike Trout, 5-tool caliber player. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't think he quite has the raw power to be a true 5-tool player. Because when you think about 5-tool players, I think you think about guys that have significantly more power than Jarren Duran does.
30 to 40 homers, more like?
I'd say more like 30.
Yeah. And Jarren Duran's a 20 homer hitter.
Exactly. He doesn't have the raw power of a lot of guys that you think about in the Mike Trout category of 5-tool player, where it's significant raw power. Jarren Duran will hit 20 to 25 homers a year. Actually, I don't even know if he's hit 25. I think 24 is his career high. So he's like a 20 homer a year guy. This past year he hit under 20. But he does everything else. He runs really well. You know he can play the field when he's at his best. He certainly plays left field well. And he hits for average. So there are tools about his game that really check out. But I don't know if he's ever going to repeat 2024.
No, but you can marvel at the fact that he had a quote-unquote down year from 2024 this past season, where instead of having a 131 WRC+, he had a 111, and instead of having a 6.8 F4 season, it was still 3.9. 3.9 would have made Jarren Duran the third most valuable Mariner this past season by a pretty clear margin, only behind Julio and behind Cal Raleigh. Like, that's objectively valuable. There's so many things he does to provide value. The defense, I got a little wrong on Friday's episode. I said Jarren Duran's defense was really volatile. I'll tell you what is volatile. His center field defense. His center field defense is very up and down. He had 17 defensive runs saved in 2024, which was very, 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 very good. In 2025, did not play quite as much center field because the Red Sox mostly put Ceddanne Rafaela out there. His defensive runs saved was -2. That's a 19-run difference. 19 runs. If you look at just left field specifically, though, it was 11 last year in about twice as many innings as this year, where he had 6 defensive runs saved in the outfield. On a rate basis for defensive runs saved as a metric, it's about the same. You do see these blunders in the outfield. Don't get us wrong. He misses some fly balls. He takes some bad routes. Sometimes he gets in his head out there in the outfield, and that can cause him to fuck up. But overall, it's good. Overall, it's good in the outfield. And on top of the hitting the ball in the gap, or hitting for a high average, or getting on base, or stealing bases, or creating extra value by taking extra bases on the base paths, he has a lot of paths to being a valuable baseball player. The only other guy on the Mariners that does that is Julio, because everyone else has some sort of physical limitation that keeps them from doing that.
Julio's another good example of somebody who's much more a true five-tool guy when everything's clicking than Duran. I was a little off on Duran's 24 home run total. In 2024, I mean. I think I said he hit 24 homers, he hit 21. So really, his power is more like J.P. Crawford, I would say. Where, J.P. can lean into a baseball, but he doesn't leave the yard at a crazy rate. Neither does Duran. Duran, to be fair, hits a lot more balls in the gap and creates extra bases a lot easier than J.P. Crawford does. And that has to do some with his bat, some with his speed. There is more ceiling there by a lot with Jarren Duran.
Less raw power, but that's game power right there. There's only 4 players in Major League Baseball who had 150 extra base hits the last 4 seasons. And 2 of those guys are Shohei and Aaron Judge.
Yeah. Look, Jarren Duran in his best season back in 24, he led the league in doubles and in triples, and then this past year he led the league in triples again. He creates extra bases, there's no doubt. I would also acknowledge that this is a platoon hitter, which the Mariners already have 2 of, platoon hitting left-handed bats. Now, I'm not exactly comparing all 3 in terms of, am I saying Jarren Duran is an equal level of player to Luke Raley and Dom Canzone? No, he's obviously better than those guys. But it is a situation where you're probably going to have to take him out of the lineup a decent amount against left-handed pitching, or you'll just play him for his defense and knowing you're sacrificing some offense that day. If you want the exact numbers, Duran OPS'd 852 against righties this past year, but he OPS 600 against lefties. So again, it's a very good athlete who does a lot of things very well. But if we want to start to balance some of the Jarren Duran positives and some of the Jarren Duran concerns, this is one of a handful of Duran concerns, which is he is a platoon hitter.
And there's nothing fluky about this platoon. His strikeout and walk numbers against righties, 23% strikeout rate, 10% walk rate, which you would take every day of the week. Against lefties, that strikeout rate spikes to 27% and his walk rate plummets to 5%. So not only is the raw production worse, not only is he, by WRC plus, over twice as good against righties than he is against lefties, but he's also just flat out not in control of the count. He's not in control of the at-bat, and he's not comfortable against lefties. And he's 27. If he was going to all of a sudden figure out hitting against lefties, he probably would have done it by now. I'm going to see if I can get his splits by year, so I have a better idea of that.
Well, I would say while you're talking about that, I think it's fair to say, and maybe this is a blanketed obvious statement, but if you're going to trade for Jarren Duran...
It's consistently bad year to year.
Yeah. Which is what I figured. If you're going to trade for Jarren Duran, though, you are most likely rerouting one of, if not both, Luke Raley and Dom Canzone elsewhere. Because you can't have 4 right fielders on the roster. You can't have Duran, Canzone, Raley, and Robles all on the roster. Somebody's probably getting rerouted elsewhere. Could somebody go back to the Red Sox in this deal? Sure. if Boston likes it would likely be one of the left-handed hitting right fielders, because both those guys have significantly more control than Robles does, and it's another left-handed bat, so you're essentially swapping a left-handed bat for a left-handed bat. But I think if you're trading for Duran, somebody's got to go either back to the Red Sox in this deal or be rerouted somewhere else.
And also, if you're trading for Jarren Duran, are you seriously going to platoon him? Even if it's the right decision. Do you think optically that would look good?
I mean, I think you kind of have to. You can't run his 600 OPS out there against lefties. Now, you might be able to give him some starts against lefties, but he can't play 160 games. Not if you want to get the best version of Jarren Duran. And by the way, there's a lot more righties than lefties in the game.
Yeah.
Now,
I was buying in so much more on this Jarren Duran idea until I just saw those lefty splits. It just doesn't really fit for what the Mariners can afford in the outfield.
Well, and this is what I was getting at here. We're going to get to our final conclusions later about this whole idea. But yeah, this is one of the first things that jumped out about both Duran and Wilyer Abreu. And we'll dive in on Wilyer here in a couple minutes. Both these guys are platoon hitting lefties. Now, let me say it again. Do I think both these players have higher upside than the two lefties in right field for the Mariners right now? Yeah, because Wilyer's a better defender. Duran's obviously a better defender, and he's a much better athlete. But how much better can each of these guys get you in terms of bringing up your overall value of the team and overall value of your win total paired to the two guys you have right now? Luke Raley, Dom Canzone, and Victor Robles those three combined for about 1.5 wins this past year. Now, what do those guys do? Sorry, what would Jarren Duran do if it was all him out there? Yeah, let's say he does more what he did this past year in 25, which is not his absolute 100th percentile year like he had a season ago, but it's probably more who he's going to be throughout the rest of his prime. He's about a 4-win player, which is really good. So you're improving by 2.5 wins if you were to sacrifice everything you've got right now in right field for Jarren Duran. About 2.5 wins. Is that worth potentially giving up one of the starters from your rotation and having to pay him the eventual money he's going to make in arbitration? And oh, by the way, for this year, you're likely not saving any money through this trade. If you take on Jarren Duran, who's set to make a little over $7 million this year, you're probably adding to the payroll, which is fine, but you have to understand that you may have to sacrifice some spots elsewhere, because if you were going to trade a starter back, it's probably somebody who's not making a ton right now.
Let's summarize this Duran idea. Just brief. Before, again, we're not saying yes or no yet. Let's summarize this. You would get roughly the same splits left-right from what your roster currently is for your right fielders. Whether you have Duran or you have Dom Canzone and Luke Raley out there, you would roughly have the same handedness split facing a righty versus facing a lefty. Yes?
Just about.
Roughly? Okay. You would be better base running. You would be better on defense. The offense would, though, improve when you're facing righties, because Jarren Duran facing righties brings more to the table than Luke Raley and Dom Canzone combined. As good as Canzone was for a couple months this year, what Jarren Duran does is better, so you would get better in that aspect, and you would add money to the payroll, is what you would do.
Right. And to be fair,
and let me add the last thing. And you'd be without one of your 4 homegrown starters.
Now, to be fair to anybody saying that Canzone had an OPS that was through the roof this past year, he did. You're right. And it was higher than Jarren Duran's. Let's acknowledge that. For anybody that would say to this idea, how could you even entertain this? Canzone was great offensively last year, and he was. But when we say Duran's a better offensive player than Canzone, there's more of a track record. There's more elements to Duran's game. And by being the athlete that Duran is, there's so much more value he adds overall. Because as we've talked about with Canzone, he is going to live or die in his big league career by what he does against right-handed pitching. He has to not just hit righties, but he has to do significant damage against righties, like he did this past year for a couple months. Because when Canzone's not doing that, he doesn't hit lefties, he doesn't run, he doesn't walk, his approach is hit or miss at best, and he doesn't really play the field. So he is going to live and die by what he does against right-handed pitching and the damage he does. There are more elements to Duran's game that make him a better overall player.
The floor with Jarren Duran is so much higher. Jarren Duran would be a 2-win player if he had a WRC plus of 100. It might even be higher than that, based on everything else he does. If Dom Canzone has a WRC plus of 100, his WAR is 0. I think.
If not negative, yeah.
If not negative, right. That's the difference between these two. And that's where the price comes into play. But we'll get to the price at the end, of course. Last thing on Duran, because we mentioned this on Friday's episode, and we'll bring it back up again. Do the past character concerns of Jarren Duran cause any issue?
It's going to have to factor in to some extent. There's no doubt it's going to be something that is talked about inside those Mariners front office buildings and inside those cubicles when they're discussing the idea of this deal if it comes to the table. Will it stop a trade? We don't know. We don't have any way to know that for sure. But I would bet you anything that I have to my name that when discussing this idea, if it hasn't already been discussed, there has been a bullet point on their list of talking points when going through this. Is Jarren Duran's clubhouse presence and who he is in terms of a character of a baseball player. There's no doubt that plays a factor into it, and there's no doubt that it's being discussed. There is no way the Mariners or any team are discussing Jarren Duran without at least talking about this side of it.
Yeah. And the Mariners have been very consistent that they like high character, or at least publicly high character players. Whether they acquire, whether they sign, they've been pretty consistent about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, they had Jesse Winker, but I guess there was no way to really know.
But Jesse Winker was just weird.
Yeah, he wasn't a bad person. I'm not saying that. He did not gel in that clubhouse. I don't think his work ethic totally leveled up to the rest of the team, and he didn't seem to get along extremely well with that entire clubhouse.
There was nothing he did off the field or something that had nothing to do with baseball that made the fans dislike him. I'll say that. Everything the fans disliked him for was on the baseball field. Is that fair?
The defense, the lack of offense. Right. Just about all of it.
Meanwhile, the main beef that I think a lot of our listeners would have with trading for Jarren Duran that has nothing to do with the baseball field is a certain word he used on the field that people feel is just flat out unacceptable from any adult playing a game of baseball that you can't do, and that would be a deal breaker for a lot of people. And Lyle, maybe that's a deal breaker alone for the Mariners, where they're like, if you at this point of your career still think that you can, on a field with mics and cameras, have no problem just going bam and saying that, then how do we trust your judgment?
Yeah. And that paired with how much do some of the other Jarren Duran issues pop up throughout the course of the year? I mean, he talked about in that Red Sox documentary about a bunch of things, including how sometimes he can let things spiral a little bit when he gets in his own head too much. We've seen it happen with his defense. We've seen it happen at the plate a little bit. That Red Sox documentary on Netflix was really good, by the way, but there was a lot of Jarren Duran stuff in there. And one of the things that he talked about a lot is he admitted that sometimes he can let the mental side of the game get the best of him, which, look, I mean, it takes a lot for an athlete to be able to admit that and be forward with that, which he deserves a lot of credit for. But if you are talking about baseball production and trading potentially a lot to get this guy, there is a talking point to that too, are things going to spiral on him at any point of the year when the team really needs him?
What happens if we trade for you? We are putting this great marketing campaign together where you are the next star of this team and you can't handle the spotlight. Jarren Duran right now is in a spot where he is one of the best Red Sox players, but he's not even the most popular guy in the outfield anymore.
No, there's a certain 21-year-old phenom in Boston who's about to be the face of that franchise for the next decade.
So the pressure is still there, but it's not there as much as it was if Jarren was number one on the Red Sox roster in terms of here's our best players.
Yeah.
In Seattle, the pressure might not be the same, but if you're trading George Kirby away for Jarren Duran, are you okay with making that deal for someone who could potentially be mentally fragile in a moment? and let that affect his season.
Yeah, there's a lot you'd have to take into that. There's no doubt about it. For anybody who didn't get the reference, the 21-year-old phenom I'm referencing is Roman Anthony, just in case anybody didn't get the reference off first hand. But yes, there is a lot you have to take into this trade, and it's not just the on-field production. And the on-field production has question marks in its own right with the platoon splits and with, a bunch of different things. He's also a pretty decent swing and miss guy. Like, there's real whiff in his game. That's another aspect.
Jarren Duran's issues aren't unique only to him. There are plenty of other players in Major League Baseball who go through the same issues he does, but not everyone admits that in a public setting. And once you admit that and it's out there in the open, the team can 100% use that against you. There are players that teams have traded for. Jesse Winker could be the example there, Lyle, where maybe the Mariners are unaware of some of these concerns that happen and pop up with him until he enters the Mariners clubhouse. But Jarren Duran talks about this openly on Netflix, which it's great, and I commend him for doing that. But when we're talking about trade leverage, that can be used against you.
Yeah, and I don't want to downplay that. Like, Jarren Duran having the internal confidence to be open about that stuff, it's a big deal. Because a lot of baseball players won't. It's a very big deal. But when you're just talking about the X's and O's of a baseball trade, we commend Jarren Duran a ton for doing that. But when you were talking about GMs and baseball executives talking about spreadsheets and X's and O's of trade value, that may be something that plays into it in their minds.
Let's talk about the other outfielder for the Red Sox. Not all these extra points to talk about, but still an interesting profile to discuss. And that's Wilyer Abreu. Summary. The ceiling is not as high offensively. The defense is much better. No off-the-field issues that we know of to talk about. He's got an extra year of control, and he's 1 year younger than Jarren Duran. But he would also cost you a starter. The floor is not quite as high. The ceiling is also not quite as high. And there's less external factors. Is that worth trading a starter?
So if you want to highlight Wilyer Abreu here for a minute, there are parts of his game that are pretty fascinating. Number one, I think he does have more true raw power than Jarren Duran does. But maybe not as much game power because he can't do on the base paths what Jarren Duran can do. Wilyer Abreu hit 22 homers this past year. He slugged .470. The guy's got real pop. And by the way, he draws his walks. But this is another platoon bat that's got some fairly drastic splits against righties versus lefties. He also had a tale of two halves last year where he totally fell off in the second half of the year. And like you said, this is somebody with 4 years of control. So he's a good player and also plays good defense. But when you're talking about 4 years of control for somebody where the Red Sox would almost certainly say, to get us to give up this guy, we want a big league starter, are you comfortable doing that? I don't know if Wilyer Abreu raises the overall win total of your team if you were to have to trade one of your starters to get him.
You might lose out.
Right.
Especially if Kirby has let's use Kirby as the example, as a fully healthy season. A fully healthy season of George Kirby, straight off the numbers, is worth more than 2.4 Fangraphs wins.
Yeah. And to be fair on Wilyer Abreu, really good defender. And when we say really good, he was in the 94th percentile of the league this year by outs above average. He is a really good defender with a strong arm, and he plays right field. So if you're looking to upgrade right field, he plays right field. We didn't even really mention that with Jarren Duran. He is mostly a left fielder. So if you were to trade for Duran, either he's going to have to go play right where he's barely played, or you're going to have to move Randy Arozarena to right where he's also barely played. Wilyer Abreu is a right fielder. But what I took away from Wilyer's profile is he's basically Dom Canzone, except he's just a way better defender and has had a little more sustained success.
Yeah, he walks a little bit more too. But
so that was the overall, which was draws more walks, and plays better defense. But overall, these are left-handed hitters who play right field, who hit right-handed pitching. Wilyer is just a better defender with a better arm. But Canzone was about a 1.5 win player last year. Abreu was about 2.5. So is adding one extra war to right field worth trading an arm for and deciding you want to totally overhaul your right field spot for that guy? I don't know if it is.
And then think about it this way, too. Would you be okay trading a starter for somebody who's not one of the 3 best outfielders on their own team?
Yeah, which is crazy to say in its own right, because if you're counting Ceddanne Rafaela as an outfielder, which most people are at this point, even though he can play a bunch of different spots, that's crazy, because the Red Sox have kind of been on the line of mediocrity to slightly above average for the last few years now, but their outfield has 4 really good outfielders. Yeah. They just can't pitch. So,
which is why this trade, they would think the Mariners could line this up well for him.
Right.
In this scenario.
I don't think for Wilyer Abreu you can trade a starter. Duran,
I'm
you can
100% in the same boat.
And look, I like Wilyer Abreu as a player. He's good. By the way, crazy little Wilyer Abreu nugget. You know he absolutely hit the piss out of curveballs this past year? Like, this man slugged 900 against curveballs for 2025.
How many did he face?
It was actually a decent portion. It was not like he saw curveballs 2% of the time. Like, he saw a healthy dose of curveballs and pissed on them all year. He had a 900. Sorry, did I say 900 OPS? I'm sorry. He
900 slug. No, you said 900 slug.
Yeah, 900 slug against curveballs, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So he's a good player, but again, had an OPS under 700 in the second half, is a platoon bat, would cost you a starter. I don't think this one lines up for the Mariners.
Let's talk the package now, because we got a pretty good idea for both of these players. For Jarren Duran, just give me a yes or a no. We'll go for each of these players. For Jarren Duran, would you trade George Kirby?
Can we circle back to him? I mean, where I lean is more on the no side, but let's circle back to him.
Would you trade Logan Gilbert for Jarren Duran?
No.
Would you trade Brian Wu for Jarren Duran?
No, let me just stop you mid-sentence. No, absolutely not.
Would you trade Bryce Miller for Jarren Duran?
Probably not. And I know Bryce didn't have a great year this past year, but again, he was so injured, and he's got so much club control. Like, he's still got 4 years of control when he's already essentially almost pitched 3 full seasons in the big leagues.
Let's go to the minor leagues. Would you trade Ryan Sloan for Jarren Duran?
This is where it gets hard with prospects, because you know that Sloan's ceiling might be the highest in the organization among any pitcher. But he's a little further away. And again, you never know with a prospect.
And if you want a counter argument, would the Red Sox even want a Ryan Sloan? I would think they want. If they're trading Jarren Duran away, they are trying to reshuffle their resources on the roster to win this next year after just making the playoffs. Like, they traded Rafi to essentially reorganize their roster to better suit themselves to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And trading Jarren Duran for a prospect who's a year and a half at least away doesn't help them make the playoffs next year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's another option. Would you trade Jarangelo Cenja for Jarren Duran?
This is where I probably start to dip into more of the yes category. And obviously, he's much closer to the big leagues and could help the Red Sox.
Would you trade Cade Anderson for Jarren Duran?
See, Cade has a chance to be really good, right? But I think people say that his ceiling is more like a number 2 starter. And number 2 starters are really, really, really good big league starters. All I'm getting at with Cade Anderson is he's not Paul Skeens. So, where do you lean on Cade Anderson?
For Jarren Duran, I would do it.
Okay. I can be talked into either side of that argument.
Odds are, here's how I think about this right now. I don't think Cade Anderson is going to be a big leaguer in 2026. The value alone that Jarren Duran will provide for you at a $7 million contract, platoon aside, for you while Cade Anderson is most likely developing in the minors, outweighs whatever, the disappointment you have in the future if he comes up for the Red Sox and he ends up being really, really, really good. But you know what else you have? You have Ryan Sloan and Jarangelo Cenja and hopefully an extended Logan Gilbert and extended Brian Wu. And then you can figure out the 5th rotation spot. In the end, your rotation still ends up really fucking good anyways.
Right.
And you have Jarren Duran.
Yeah. Yeah, so when you dip into more of the prospect pool, I think the Mariners listen much more here. When you're talking about trading big league starters, man, that makes it hard, especially in 2026. Honestly, the one that might warrant the most conversation of the big league starters would be Kirby, because Kirby and Duran have the same amount of club control. It's 3 years. Do you think Kirby's going to sign the extension? We've always said he feels least likely of the bunch to do so. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, on George Kirby, he still hasn't really taken that step from good to great. Right. He hasn't taken the Logan Gilbert step that we saw in 2024. He hasn't taken the step that we saw from Brian Wu in 2025. He's been good and had good years, but he is not, like, he still doesn't miss a ton of bats. He still doesn't have that true out pitch. Sometimes starts can get away from him when he's too much in the zone. So there's more of an argument that you could listen to on that one.
He still hasn't even taken a Jarren Duran like outlier one good season and then back to the norm yet. He hasn't done that.
No. So you could
and we're not sure if he signs an extension. Which, if he's not going to sign an extension and you'd rather sign Logan Gilbert and you've decided between those two you're signing one of them, and Logan's the one you made your mind up on, well, Kirby's going to have to get traded either this offseason or next offseason if you want a serious return package. Serious return package. The 1 year of control for a guy who's good but not insane, you're talking less than Corbin Burns, Scott. And Corbin Burns, as we talked about when discussing the Tarek Skubal situation, was Joey Ortiz and DL Hall, right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, so it was
they're solid big league players, but not some insane return that raises the ceiling of your baseball team.
Those guys were back end top 100 prospects when they were traded.
Right.
So think about that, but you'd get less for Kirby with 1 year to go on his deal.
Right.
So, yeah, the only thing about that is I don't know where that sets your rotation up in 2026. If you trade Kirby, things start to get frisky. Either you're really banking on your prospects and you're banking on our guy Logan Evans, or you're going to have to go find another starter from outside the organization, either by trade or by free agency.
Which you could do, because T-Mobile Park's very nice to pitch in, and the Mariners have not been aggressive for acquiring starting pitching. Or for getting pitchers. They have been.
Like, if you're going to trade Kirby for Duran, the Mariners probably have to at least dip their toes into the Tatsuya Imai market, which right now I would think they're not really going to be in. But if you're going to give up a starter like Kirby, you have to look to a level of a caliber starter that could potentially replace him. And Imai's ceiling is supposed to be pretty good.
Yeah, and I'd be okay with that. And the goal is to win next year. So you replace the production in the rotation and you make your big league starting nine better, which is good.
Yeah.
Let's do the same exercise before we wrap up here with Abreu. But we're not doing the starters, because I'm going to just take a gander, Lyle. That if I floated any one of the Mariners' 4 homegrown starters as a trade for Wilyer Abreu, you would say no.
Correct.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, if the Mariners offered Luis Castillo for Wilyer Abreu, the Red Sox would say no, because they wouldn't be taking on that kind of money. So let's do the prospect game again. Would you trade Ryan Sloan for Wilyer Abreu?
No.
Would you trade Jarangelo Stangia for Wilyer Abreu?
Maybe. Like, I don't want to give Jarangelo short shrift. I mean, this guy has a chance to be really damn good.
Yeah.
Really good. I almost feel like he's slept on a lot of prospect rankings this year, because even though the numbers weren't perfect, and a lot of that has to do with it was ballooned by the left side, I mean, you're talking about a guy that was pumping 100, and a couple of his secondaries were awesome in his first year, and he's only had 1 year in the minors so far. I mean, I think you have to listen, but I don't love it. So by default here, Kate Anderson's a no, too.
Okay. It sounds like Wilyer Abreu's off the docket for you. For at least for the pitch, if the Red Sox are acquiring pitching, it's a no.
Again, I like the player, but yeah.
The only one I would trade is Jarangelo. I would do a package of prospects with Jarangelo headlining it for Wilyer Abreu.
But see, even you, I can hear the hesitation in your voice when saying that.
Your ceiling's not going to get raised an insane amount, but you will be better. You're going to overall make your team better. You struggled on defense last year. You will be better defensively. Your floor offensively will raise a little bit. Your power will be good. He's young. He's controllable. Is everything you'd like. there are pluses to doing that. And for a prospect package in an organization that has too many prospects and needs to trade some of them, I think you can justify that one.
You know what's funny with the Red Sox, too? Jarangelo might make more sense for them than any of the prospects, not only because he's big league ready, or sorry, he's not big league ready, getting closer to being big league ready, is he's right-handed. The Red Sox and the rotation they're going to roll out in 26 is a lot of lefties. So you got Garrett Crochet, obviously going to be your opening day guy. Brian Bayo's going to pitch behind him right now as the number 2, who's good, and he had a solid year, but Brian Bayo I don't really think is a number 2 starter. I think he's more like a number 3 or a number 4. And again, he's good, but he's not quite a top-end pitcher. So when you get past those two, this is where you dip into the total territory of unknown for Boston, where it's going to be some combo of Connolly early. He will probably be in the rotation. Peyton Tolley. You throw Kyle Harrison into that mix too, who was one of the main pieces back in the Rafi Devers trade. And then some combo of Tanner Houck and Richard Fitz, essentially. If it's Crochet and then Bayo and then the 3 prospects like I'm talking about, Early, Tolley, Harrison, that's 4 lefties and a righty. I think the Red Sox need a right-handed starter.
Just too unknown for them as well. Like they are the anti-Mariners when it comes to handiness in their rotation.
Yeah. And again, you get past Crochet and I guess Bayo, man, it looks muddy in that rotation. All 3 of those guys have high ceilings, but you don't know that they're all going to pan out.
They're not proven at all.
No.
And even if they will be good eventually, it does not mean they'll be good next year. Think of the Mariners starters in their current rotation. Brian Wu, his rookie year, first full year, bad.
No, not bad.
Yeah, his first, he was not great.
He had his ups and downs like any rookie, but again, like
I mean, he didn't pitch deep into games and he crumbled in September. He was not very good. I don't think he was very good.
Well, but remember how good all the underlying stuff was on him that year, and how many
underlying
things
stats don't win games. Underlying stats allow you to project for the future, but when it comes to winning baseball games in a year, it's the results.
Okay, his ERA as a rookie was 4.21, and his ERA plus was 94. So he was below average by ERA plus. ERA, he was fine. He wasn't great.
Right, and in the big games at the end of the year, he was not good. Just same as Bryce Miller, right? That was the big storyline going into 2024 was them fixing that issue, and they both of them did in fantastic fashion. But that's my point. Even if your guy is a top prospect, Bryce Miller was a top 100 prospect. I don't think was Wu a top 100 prospect when he debuted, or was he not? I don't think so.
He never was. I don't think Bryce.
So.
I don't know if Bryce was either.
Even Logan Gilbert, who was solid his first couple of years, he was much better his second year, but was far from dominant in his first 2 full seasons in MLB. Even you could even say his first 3 full seasons in MLB, far from dominant, really. So no matter how good those guys are, you just can't fully trust young guys until they've gone out there and they've proven it. And that's why the Red Sox would be so interested in guys who have proven it in the Mariners rotation.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I'm going to take away our answers from this is Duran at a certain price, Abreu no.
I think that's where I'm at. And Abreu, it just more has to do with there's nothing I'd feel comfortable with the Mariners giving away that lines up acquiring him. And I just don't think he raises the ceiling enough in right field from the group of guys you already have out there. I think the combination of Canzone, Raley, Robles isn't that different in terms of overall production you'll get in 2026 than you get from Wilyer Abreu.
Right.
Jarren Duran, that's a little different. He will raise the floor. And you know he's got aspects of his game that none of those right fielders have out there right now.
Right.
But it has to be at a certain price. I would not be comfortable trading most of those starters away.
Yep. Well, that is, I'd say, a pretty good breakdown on if the Mariners are going to make a trade with the Red Sox. It feels like this is what it would be. But we'll see.
Right.
I would be kind of surprised if Luis Castillo's name gets floated to them again this offseason. Like, I know it almost happened last offseason for Casas. Mariners have no need for Tristan Casas anymore. So that one doesn't make quite as much sense.
Could it be Luis and a prospect you could trade for one of these guys?
No.
Red Sox take on money, though.
Would you trade Luis Castillo and Ryan Sloan for Jarren Duran?
Oh, you think it would cost that?
Yes. If you're sending money, yeah.
I mean, that is a lot.
I know.
That is a lot the Mariners would have to sacrifice for a right fielder with some question marks.
I know. But and you and I don't have to be the only ones to think about this. Maybe the Red Sox think this too. Would Luis Castillo be as good pitching at Fenway?
Oh, well, no.
I don't think so. Not at this point of his career.
No.
Not with his strikeout stuff declining. The profile doesn't fit very well for him.
Well, and just the numbers on the road overall.
And he fills the rotation spot, but I don't think at this point of his career he's that slam dunk number 2 they're looking for behind Garrett Crochet.
That's probably right. Yeah.
So,
well, that was fun. That's a good breakdown.
any predictions too? Should we talk about next? Should we do? Maybe we should do the guys you suggested. Let's do.
Well, Wednesday. Okay, let's give everybody a reminder here. Wednesday, we're gonna have an interview episode on Wednesday, which will be fun. Should we save
Trevor
that?
May. We'll have Trevor May on Wednesday.
Yeah. Who is a recurring guest, and we're gonna have him back on for Wednesday's episode to talk about a bunch of different stuff, which is always fun. And then Friday, we're gonna be off. We're gonna no episode Friday. We know everybody's gonna be busy with Thanksgiving weekend, so we're gonna do no episode Friday. Then back at it as usual next Monday, but this week just 2 episodes. But it will be essentially next Monday we could potentially profile somebody else unless the Mariners have made any moves by then. So yeah.
Bellinger, maybe on Monday?
Maybe. Let's not stamp anything official here yet.
Okay. No.
Because
let the turkey settle in and then make a decision.
Well, that, and you never know if there starts to be a name that's hot on the market. That's who will be trending to talk about. Like if all of a sudden Bo Bichette's name gets really hot, or Bellinger's name gets really hot, or the Mariners get linked to somebody in reports, that's another thing. We start breaking them down. So let's see how everything plays out in the next week, and we can make a judgment call before next Monday's episode.
Yeah. All right. Well, I like that idea.
All right. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed that breakdown. If you guys have any thoughts on Jarren Duran or Wilyer Abreu or the Mariners starters or their prospects, as always, drop them in the comments. Leave us a DM. We always like hearing your guys' thoughts. We always want to hear what the other fans and Mariners people are thinking about all this and how opinions might differ from ours. So, yeah, tell us. We always like hearing it. With that, that'll just about wrap up this edition of the Marine Layer Podcast. You guys know the drill. If you want to listen to the full form podcast, you can do so anywhere that you get your audio pod. So if you're listening, make sure to download these episodes. Go rate and review. Please leave it 5 stars. It helps out a ton if you do. If you're on YouTube, like we were saying, drop a comment on the video. Let us know what you think about Duran or Wilyer Abreu or anything else we talked about in this episode. Leave a like on the video. Please go subscribe. That's the best way you can support on YouTube is hitting that subscribe button. You can find everything on our website, marinelayerpod.com. All our merch, all our Patreon is there. And then you can follow us all across social media at Marine Layer Pod. That's TJ. I'm Lyle. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.